Is it you? Is it you? Is it you? Who got the truth now? Is it you? Is it you? Is it you? Sit me down, say it straight. Another story on the way. Who got the truth?
Jess, I'm so excited about this. So we met for the first time a couple weeks ago. The last couple months have just been nuts for Ben and me. One of the nutty things is we are going to host the Innovation Summit at the Super Bowl this year. The Super Bowl is coming back to San Francisco. It's going to be amazing. And as part of that, there was a dinner to kick off after the announcement of all this. And my wife and I got invited to the dinner. We go to this dinner. We don't know what to expect. There's we walk in, like Roger Goodell's there. Neil Mohan, the CEO of YouTube's there. Jerry Rice is there. We're like, oh, okay. And the CEO of the Bay Area Host Committee that is organizing all this comes up to me and Jenny, my wife, and is like, I sat you guys at the best table for the evening. We're like, oh, okay. And we sit down, and we're at a four-top with Jess and her husband. And we had such a great conversation. And it truly was the best table. She's like, Zaleen was like, you're sitting with the president of the Valkyries. I'm like, oh, yeah, let's go. So, but way more exciting.
It works now.
So, Jess, as my wife and I learned over dinner, less than 2 years ago, you were running Angel City FC in LA, a soccer team. The Valkyries didn't exist. Today, you guys are the highest valued women's sports team in the entire world. You're 1 year old.
In any league.
In any league. You had the highest attendance in the WNBA this year in history as a first-year team. You made the playoffs in your first year, which you were telling us the only other expansion team that's ever done that was where you got to draft all the best players from
the NHL.
Yeah,
because they only protected 2 players and allowed the Vegas Knights to basically construct an all-star team.
I would even just say I don't even know where to start other than this is just so incredible.
Here, I'll know where to start.
Yeah, go.
It seems, and did you sell out every game? Did I hear that?
We did. Not the preseason game, but then every regular season game. So 22 regular home season games, over 18,000. And then we played our home playoff game at SAP, which is a little over that, so 18.5, and sold that out as well.
Wow.
So let's go to the very first game of the season. It seems like sort of a narrative violation that it's possible as a brand new team to sell out from your first game forward. What is the cause of this rabid fandom?
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the beginning and candidly back to Angel City. So I've worked in sport for, it feels weird to say, so close to 20 years. So worked with teams within the NHL, Major League Baseball, Major League Soccer, and during that time, really understood the differences within each of the leagues and how they monetize themselves a little bit differently with some of the same models, but then some of the infrastructures, really taking an opportunity to customize for the fan base or projected fan base that they have. And also just perpetually curious. And so Julie Ehrman, who's the co-founder and CEO of Angel City, alongside Kara Nortman and Natalie Portman, the actress and activist, we started talking about a team in Los Angeles. And I think what was really interesting about that is those that have been in sport or been a fan of women's sports and seen these incredible peaks around Olympics and World Cup years knew that the fandom was there, but that the product wasn't matching it. And for so long, people had just assumed the men's sports fan is the women's sports fan. Well, why doesn't the NBA fan come to the WNBA? And why doesn't the MLS fan come to the NWSL? Well, because number one, you're telling them it's a 2.0 product. You're trying to create a product that's too similar to the one that they're already into from a legacy fandom standpoint. And number two, it's actually an entire different audience that's been waiting to be served this product. And so taking that really as the hypothesis, and then coming off of the Time's Up movement with the U.S. Women's National Team, and this group of actresses with Natalie Portman, Jen Garner, Eva Longoria, saying, how do we actually use this influence in sport to shift society? And so it was a massive opportunity to really match a product where mission and capital could coexist. And that model worked for Angel City because to actually push women's sports forward, you have to be unapologetic about building business. And for so long, it's really been, this is the right thing to do, right? Of course, everyone wants these athletes to make more money. But the reality is the only way to do that is to actually build business around it and build a premier product and focus on the dollars. And we did that. And we never lost sight, though, of why we were doing it and really thinking about how to make sure we were acknowledging and funding systemic change at pipeline levels. And at Angel City, when they came into the NWSL, their expansion fee rate was $2 million. That was only 5 years ago. So pretty unbelievable, right? Now valued at over $250 million with the latest valuation.
Wow.
So the latest Angel City valuation is
Yes.
$250 million?
It is.
125x in 5 years.
Correct. And so that same understanding of the NWSL in Los Angeles, so the whole time I was helping to build Angel City, I've lived here in the Bay. And so this is home for me. This is where I've raised my family, and a cute rescue dog named Gus. He's a pug. He's really cool. My husband doesn't think so, but I do. It's fine. I think that's like every dog in every household. So, you know, and I grew up playing basketball. For me, my personal story also starts with I'm the first person in my family that went to college. And I credit a lot of that to like what you see from all these statistics of having access to sport. I had coaches, I had skill sets, I had guidance counselors telling me that I could go do something different and bringing me into different environments to know what that could mean. And so when Golden State achieved the rights for the next WNBA expansion team and the first team from 2008, and I lived here, really just wanted to be friends of the project. But very quickly in sitting down with Joe Lacob and Peter Guber, I think the most amazing thing that I was met with was curiosity. You know, these are owners that are incredible in a lot of different things that they do. And obviously the Golden State Warriors, who are playing their home opener tonight, by the way, so go Warriors.
Oh, go Dubs.
Let's go Dubs. They got a nice win 2 nights ago. You know, they're one of the best brands in the world, let alone sports brands. And they have a premier facility in Chase Center. And I'm sitting at a table and they're asking me out of curiosity, how do I do it? And I think to match that, Joe Lacob had actually invested in women's basketball before the WNBA existed. So he was an investor in the San Jose Lasers with the league, the ABL, and it ended up not going well, and he's kind of held on to that, but he's been a fan of the women's game for a really long time, too. And I think that's so powerful to walk into a storied organization and to have the awareness that for them, they needed to build a product within a product. Right? So really the roadmap was how do we use the power and infrastructure of Golden State and who we are and the region that is the Bay Area, but take the playbook of understanding how to build towards this core audience and more, very candidly, with the power of women's basketball right now in the WNBA, which, you know, this league is already one of the most powerful leagues in the world. It's the 5th most watched league here in the US, and international rights are definitely on the horizon.
So, you know, one thing you mentioned earlier and that we talked a lot about over dinner and since is the audience. Who is the audience and how is it different? And maybe start with what is the male-female demographic of your audience?
Well, even before that, any guesses on the crossover of, we have over 10,000 season ticket holders, the same as the Warriors. Any guesses on the percentage of those being the same between the two products?
40%. 60.
7%. We sold out all of our games, same ownership group, same venue, same number of season ticket holders. 7% of that audience is the core audience.
Totally different audience.
Totally different audience.
Did you market to the Warriors audience?
We want every Warriors fan to be a Valkyries fan, absolutely. And they're one of our core audience. So really how we approached it was there's 3, you know, kind of buckets of fans that we knew were important and would build this really powerfully. The first is the women's sports fan. Everyone throughout time will tell you, like every agency, well, this is a small audience. They come out in small bits. They're really not, you know, large. You can't build a product around them. That's actually not true. They're just undermeasured and not in anyone's database, and they haven't been given the right product to be somebody that you could actually bring out at the right time together. And here in the Bay, they're significant. Like this region has a rich history of women's sports and the collegiate landscape, and certainly when you do look at World Cups and Olympics and athletes that come out of this region, it's big. So it's already a region that really believes in that anyways, which, you know, made it perfect for bringing a team here. The second audience is the specific individual one. It's the largest one. It's what we call the bright believer audience. audience. This is a young, diverse audience flooding into women's sports because they're really aware of where they spend their time and their money. And what they're finding is spending that time and money in women's sports is not only something they find joy in, but something they really understand as a consumer, what that's progressing forward in our world, right? And so they're finding a true value set connection. They're buying every single piece of merchandise. They will wear it in as many places as they can. They will show up to every single game, and they will follow the Valkyries before they follow anything else. And candidly, we were talking about this too. Some of the biggest crossover we're seeing of like other things they like to do. They like to go to the ballet. They like to go to the opera. They love the arts. They're going to concerts. They're in the music scene. They like sports, but they're not necessarily the rabid sports fan that you're seeing elsewhere. And that's really important because they're a unique audience, but also...
And that's so different from, the typical NBA, NFL fan.
Yep, exactly. And then the third is the traditional sport fan, to your point. So this is the audience that, like if you look at the WNBA specifically, last year's rookie year with the Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Cam Brink, there was a huge audience infusion from NCAA into the WNBA. They're here for the basketball, and then they're staying for the basketball. Just like Warriors fans that came to one Valkyries game, like we do a lot of different surveying and so forth after, even if they came to one game, they're like, wow, this is like good basketball. And I think there's a lot of people that have been to a Valkyries game, and that is the sentiment. That audience needs to continue to grow as well. So for us, like how we think about it is like, how are we marketing specifically for that fan experience? But the other part to your point is we are an audience made up of, and this has been women's sports, by the way, for all time, like it's a 50-50 men's and women's audience. And that's always something some people find surprising because people assume it's a women's product made for women. It's not. Like half of the audience are men. And in fact, the fastest growing audience from this past year were men under the age of 18. So it's really interesting as we think about what platforms, what type of content, and how we're going to make sure to keep those engaged and not just here for the first time.
You mentioned earlier that the product in traditional women's sports has been too similar to men's sports and sort of marketed the same way as like an also product, or I think you said a version 2 product. I'm always interested in business strategy about how to compete and to sort of flank someone from the side rather than trying to, as a smaller, under-resourced organization competing head-on with a big incumbent. How is the approach for the product different than how people were thinking about the product in prior generations?
Yeah, I mean, it's really understanding what it is. And the product of women's sports is a mixture of sports and purpose and culture. It's a 365-day product. The games are the high point, the peak point, the gathering point, but it's everything in between. So how are you monetizing what that is and the platforms that you can build around that? Because our fans care just as much about what our players are wearing on their way into the venue as they do about the winning on the court. And so the long-term opportunity for that is really grand. Like we had a fashion show this year, partnered with Sephora, and it was epic. I am not good at that stuff, so I'm always embarrassed next to the players.
Now men's sports are going to be copying that.
Absolutely.
More and more.
And so the influence that you're seeing from women's sports continue to build in that way is 100% going to start translating into men's sports, and it should, as the products are able to really grow that way.
It's so cool here. I mean, we did our episode on the IPL earlier this year, Indian Premier League, and like that as a startup whole league, just a short number of years ago, like this was the whole thesis of the league. Of it's a year-long product, and the games are the gathering point. The matches are the gathering point, but it's about Bollywood. It's about who's there. It's about the coverage of it. Incredible to see. Tell us about the merch strategy, and tell us about the merch strategy.
Yeah, I mean, fashion show is a great segue to that too. Well, I think first and foremost, before we talk merch, let's talk brand. To your point, and the point earlier around us sitting down and being Golden State, but very clearly building our own unique brand. We were adamant about that. If you ever see the colors blue and gold, you think of the Warriors. If you ever see the colors blue and gold of the Golden State, you think of the Warriors. As a brand new product, no matter what you're looking to achieve, you have to have some type of brand awareness. So our brief was, how do we create even a color that when somebody sees the colors, they think of the Valkyries? And I think we've achieved that. But also, making sure that we can curate that into lifestyle, merchandise.
And
yeah.
Purple. I mean, there's a lot of...
It's Valkyries Violet.
Yeah,
well, that's how we market it.
Valkyries
It is,
Violet.
in fact,
I
purple.
apologize.
Yeah.
But most, I mean, I guess except maybe the Vikings in the NFL, but most sports teams run run as far away as possible from purple.
Yeah.
Colorado Rockies.
Oh, good one.
Yeah, okay, that's another good one. Why was that in the past, and why did you decide it was ownable?
Well, the first boring part of that answer is there's actually only so many different colors you can choose from, right? So the palette that you get from, no matter what the league is, that you get from a Nike and Adidas, et cetera, like on Nike, you get the palette and then you immediately do the process of elimination. Like what colors are used by Bay Area teams? A lot. We use a lot here. And then what colors are used by other WNBA teams? And then you kind of look at the colorways. And then we had chosen the name the Valkyries. So trying to find something in that fit, but then simultaneously testing it with, is this something that you would wear? And one of the biggest points in the room was, is this something men will wear? And everyone said yes, like absolutely, if we make it the right way and, you know, hit the different markets with the types. Somebody might want black merchandise with, you know, the Valkyrie Violet, and a lot of people are going to want the Valkyrie Violet as loud as they can. So that's where the merch strategy is really important to us, is that of those three demographics, and we go deeper within each one, we really make sure that there's merchandise for every single one. We still sell the golf polos. They sell really well, right? That's still a staple, you know, in what people
Dad
are buying.
shirts.
Yeah, right? But then we also have, like, I forget who I was talking to about it, like bomber jackets, like galore, right? And opportunities for really cool headwear. And we're only going to expand in that space. It's with the fashion show, there's an upcoming drop of those items coming in November, so stay tuned. But those opportunities for that self-expression is really more of a brand strategy than a revenue line, to be quite frank, right? So revenue is important, but the margins are never going to be something that compete with your traditional revenue lines in a merchandise standpoint. So it's really about fan acquisition. We saw when we had over 22,000 deposits, as we were just, you know, gaining interest and working to get that market set up, over 50% of those leads came from merchandise buys. So when we launched the brand in May of 2024, in 2 months' time, we sold merchandise in 70 countries in all 50 states. And so also just immediately understanding
This is
our
wild.
audience.
You are an expansion WNBA team that hasn't played a game yet, and you sold merch
color.
in all 50 states and 70 countries.
So I don't want to just like take it at face value and say that's amazing. Why? Why did it sell so well?
I mean, our hypothesis is people have been waiting for this, right? People, especially in women's basketball, have been waiting for a team that they feel like connects with their value set. And people like to win. People like to be with the team that they know is going to go all in. And from a basketball standpoint, we know these owners, they like to win, right? They came right out and said, we're gonna win a championship in the first 5 years. So that piece of the puzzle is a focus. And then we built a brand that we feel like is cool to wear, is fun to be a part of, represents more than somebody's, just own self. And we kind of saw that come together in a way that, surprising is not the right word, because we knew that that's what we were going for, but how quickly it happened, I think was, for us, a huge data point in what this was going to be.
So how did you tie that in with the roster strategy and the team?
Thankfully, our general manager is much better at that.
This was part of the overall strategy, right?
Yes, and how we're building the brand, and certainly how we're going to recruit moving forward. So the brand, the sellout stadium, the opportunity to align with this team as a basketball player is huge, right? To be a part of Golden State, but to know what this was a part of. Now, how we were able to expand was very difficult. We had the same rules as the team that expanded in 2008 did, of which they won 4 games. So the whole world was like, oh, they're not going to be very good. But one of the expertise of our general manager is how internationally savvy that she is. And so we had the most international roster in WNBA history. We had 3 players from the French national team, which if you watch the Women's Olympics, like French, Belgium, Spain, Italy, we had the top scorer in Italy's team on our squad. And so it was
Why were
really
the
cool.
other WNBA teams not all over these players?
I mean, I don't want to tell them. Are there scouts here? I think it's.
No, this is a room of tech people.
There are
I'm
definitely
confident
no
enough
other
to know.
WNBA scouts
Yeah, right.
here.
It's been growing. Like as a league in total, the international game has definitely been a focus point. I think, I can't speak for them, in every way, but I think it will continue to remain something that's really important to the pipeline of talent.
So there are probably, not only are there probably not any WNBA scouts here, I'd bet there's almost nobody. Raise your hand if you're in the business of sports.
Just Morgan.
So as a room of tech business people, founders, technologists, what are some things about the business of sports that would surprise us on the outside when all we get to see is the game on the field?
I mean, there's a reason the multipliers are so high right now and the untapped potential both in traditional sport, but also like technology and adjacent sport. There's a lot of white space in just things that have been created and not created for women's sports specifically. Like a lot of the health data history and sports science are actually like from studying small men. And that's what they're taking. And you're, I know, it's like ridiculous to say. The whole phrase. Can we cut that out of the video? Yeah.
A lot of upside.
This actually,
There's so much upside.
I was looking at a lot of research studies with my wife over the last few years. We have a 2-year-old at home, and the more we were like, hey, let's look at research studies around this, the more you realize people of all ages, they basically for 80 years only did studies on men.
Like if you look at heart health, how it's the main contributor to death in women, and you can tell I'm like so nerdy in this stuff now. But and the symptoms are totally different for women than they are men when you're having health symptoms related to your heart, right? But most people don't know that. So there's all this education, let alone the female body is just constructed differently. There's a reason there's more ACL tears, right? Like let's talk about that. Let's figure out a way to make sure that we have these premier athletes. So when you're looking at the rise of women's sports and fandom, what comes next is how do we keep them as healthy as possible, and how do we make sure that they can be that 2 to 5% better based on those pieces. So when you're thinking about, for me, helping women's sports continue to grow and also building great business, it's really finding that white space in knowing that the rise is only getting started.
Okay, so you mentioned the multiple expansion on teams. All sports have had a lot of multiple expansion in the last 10 years. You look around at the NBA, the NFL, they're all hitting these like all-time high valuations, and it's not just because their revenue's going up, it's multiples. Women's sports, it's way faster. I mean, the Angel City going from 2 million to 250 million in 5 years is one thing, but this is like, I was just talking to the owner of the Sounders, they were seeing the same thing. Obviously, the fastest team ever a fast team to reach a very high valuation with the Valkyries is a thing. Why are women's sports seeing this like insane? It's almost like everyone's waking up all at the same time and going, women's sports, valuable.
Yes, and because small factors, like when you look at even the revenue stream opportunities, so small factors like the number of games. So one of the things when people are comparing like, they make much less money and things like that, all true, but also we play half the number of games as the NBA. As the league continues to grow, as broadcast continues to be lucrative, as those pieces come in play, more games are going to happen. So if you could fast forward on an investment and understand that you're going to double your gathering opportunities over the next number of years, right? Yeah. So like even just simple things like that people when they're looking at the future of it are seeing, I think are big. And then the expansion market is great too. So getting in now, right? And then whether your opportunity is to add other people to your ownership group or eventually sell, it's going to be a great market as an asset if that's how you're looking at it too.
It feels also like and maybe IPL led the way in this, or at least it's top of our minds. People have realized that it's not just about the games. This is a year-round thing, and you can monetize it year-round with whether that's sponsorships on social media or merch or all sorts of events, all sorts of things. It feels like that, especially in the women's sports, was such a. It just blows my mind that you were able to execute on this strategy in less than 2 years and become the highest valued women's team in the world. It's just unbelievable. We're going to open it up for questions in just a minute. One last question from us, or really me first. And selfishly, I think a lot of the people in the room will be curious to hear your thoughts on this. Sorry, Ben. San Francisco is having a moment right now. And the Valkyries are a big part of that. Like how... Obviously, you couldn't plan for that, but how are the Valkyries just thinking about the city and what's happening here right now?
Yeah, well, I think even just in our existence, building in the Bay was something that we've kept at our core, right? Like this region is special, and all of us know it. We're first adapters. We're comfortable with change. We want to be a part of what comes next. So for us, we're always aware of like the world always looks to this region, and it's our responsibility as a part of it, whether it's tech innovation or it's how we treat people. And the opportunity to build in women's sports specifically, and the WNBA specifically, with the power of that, especially in San Francisco, is something that we feel really fortunate to have, right? Because because the people that come to our games, are ready to jump in. Like if you came to our first preseason game, we had no idea what to expect, right? We sold out of merchandise and we sold out of tickets. We're like, are people gonna be hyped? Is it gonna be quiet in here? And we put a lot of strategy around like the in-game atmosphere. It's so loud. If you've been there, like our fans are on their feet screaming the entire game. We're creating a party too, but I think it's just a testament to this city. And for us, making sure we're integrating ourselves into that, right? There's so much that we've learned from, this city and the tech space, but really the energy here, it's having a moment, but for us that know this city, just know that's always been the heart of who we are.
So great.
Do we have a few minutes for audience questions?
I think we at least have a
Few?
Don't worry.
You all align your shoes out.
Oh. The first time I noticed it, actually.
Oh.
Whose do you like best?
No, but if you want a funny acquired Nike story, David at our Chase Center show wore these brand new bright Nikes with a just like glaring bright swoosh.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure JP Morgan had to pay some extra rights for the logo
That's funny.
placement.
I actually didn't know that.
It was
Ben
so
stays away-
prominent on the released video that there were some rights owed.
Well, okay, even more behind the scenes, I was debating, right? You know this, right up until the last minute. Was I going to wear those Air Force Ones or I went on Facebook Marketplace and I got, when I was a kid, do you guys remember the Bugs Bunny Jordans? I had the Bugs Bunny Jordans as a kid and I was like, we're playing a basketball arena. Like, if I'm ever going to, so I went and I got like a off Facebook Marketplace, a replica Bugs Bunny Jordans. And then I put them on, I was like, I just can't do that. It's too much. So, but maybe we wouldn't have had to pay for the rights. If
You're wearing all Hermes. It would have been a little bit of a funny.
Next time.
Aviel.
So you're building an extremely fast-growing business. Audience tech folks. What software, AI, whatever you wish exists?
I think we have a lot to learn in this space. I think in sports, sometimes we're behind in adopting the right types of technology. But for us, we're the same as any startup. The two main things that we have are driving revenue and acquiring audience. So anything that could help us more quickly generate fandom at any stage and get them into the purchasing pipeline and the followership pipeline would be something that would be incredibly interesting. We have a closed AI system that we're using as a company so that we're training, and I think that's ahead of most teams, to be quite honest. We use it quite a lot, but we're in the process of having some conversations, mainly from the Golden State side. We have a great analytics team. This guy Ben Dre, he would have been here today if he didn't have to be at Warriors opening night. But he's on it and kind of thinking about how we're going to do it. But it's top of mind for us. We have to. We're in San Francisco, right? Like we have to.
Amazing. Jess, thank you. And can we all give a huge hand of applause for the Valkyries? It's just awesome what you brought to the city. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Are we going straight through?
Yeah.
Great. Thanks,
Okay.
Jess.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you, Jess. Congrats on such a first season and best luck on the next one. Now, we're going to flip the script on Ben and David, but in order to do so, I phoned a friend. So Claire Vaux is going to join and interview both Ben and David. Now, if you don't know Claire, she's the founder and creator of ChatPRD and also the host of the very entertaining and educational podcast, How I AI. So Claire?
Do I get your mic?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. I'm not sitting in the middle. That's weird. Yeah, this is what we're going to do. See, I have the very entertaining podcast, and now I get to interview the #1 technology podcast. So we're doing something super fun. Ben, David, thank you so much for being here. I am not going to waste time on introductions. I think we know who we're talking to. So I want to dive right into it because I think there's a lot of stuff that people in the audience are interested in, your points of view on the market, but I want to talk about you two. You have been doing this for a while, and I want to know, what I always like to know is, what is the genesis of a great business? And I think the genesis of many great businesses is the meet cute, like between the founders, which is how you two decided that you wanted to do this together, that you thought it was a fun thing to spend your time on, and why you two would complement each other in this project. And so if you go back to when this all started, how did it all come to be?
Well, we have a great meet cute. Better than I have with my wife, I think.
It's not better than mine.
No, you have a better one with your wife, but go for it.
David and I met at a Passover Seder. So we had the same, I don't know, is it right to call Greg our old boss, our old mentor?
Mentor.
Yeah.
Greg's my mentor, yeah. Mensch. He's our mensch.
Yes. And Greg sort of ran two things at the same time. He was a managing director of Madrona venture capital firm, and Madrona had a startup studio. And I worked in the studio, David worked at the venture firm. And
We were recruiting you to the studio. You hadn't joined yet.
Is that right?
Yep.
And you were coming back from business school. So actually neither of us worked
Yeah,
there
neither
at the
of
time.
us, yeah.
But anyway, Greg was like, you guys should meet. We sat down, I think we instantly hit it off. It's not like we became best friends, but I think we very quickly knew, like, oh yeah, that guy, like, I don't need to waste any time on pleasantries. We can immediately go all the way down to like the minutia of.
Yeah, we became like business nerd soulmates. Even though, actually, funny enough, we were sort of at different life phases at the time. Like I guess Jenny and I have been married for a couple years, just graduated business school. You were
single,
1 or 2
my
years
first
out of
job,
college,
yeah.
2 years out of college?
Yeah, 2.
Oh, yeah. And now here we are with, little kids together and, all that.
But the origin of the podcast is like a year went by and you and I kept trying to get regular drinks on the calendar. It wasn't happening because, life gets in the way. You want to spend more time with someone, but like it just kind of keeps getting rescheduled. And the podcast was kind of this forcing function for, well, if we have a project together, then we'll have to hang out.
Got it. So the podcast brought your business soulmate energy together, gave you an excuse to hang out. And now you've been doing it for, I believe, 10 years. Let's get a round of applause for these folks. And one of the things that I was, look at that, very cute microphone, cheers. One of the things that I was looking at is your downloads per episode chart over time. I think it's so interesting. And what I love about this chart is it is beautiful. It's a hockey stick. And I'm not saying that I did it, but it was somewhere between Amazon and LVMH, which is my favorite episode. You see that inflect. And I do want to talk about that growth journey, but I want to talk about the product. How did you feel like the product changed between that early stage of building and then that inflection point now over 1 million downloads, I think, per episode? So how do you think about the before and after of that moment from a product perspective?
Well, if you go listen to the PowerPoint episode, you will know it's changed a lot. Oh, boy.
Well, the funny thing, so the Acquired has essentially doubled every year in its listener base since we started it 10 years ago. So the chart has always looked the way the chart looks now, and the y-axis just changes. And it's this funny thing about exponential charts where even if you know this, you see a chart like that, and you're like, wow, something must have happened right in here.
It was Claire listened to the
That's right.
to LVMH.
But if you had asked us 3 years ago, you would have been like, oh, something happened, in 2018.
Yeah, we have a few of these like, oh, we thought this moment was the inflection, but then it all just gets washed away as it, yeah.
That said, yes, like, there's a few of the big ones have been when we stopped just talking about acquisitions and started talking about acquisitions and IPOs, and then we stopped talking about IPOs and started also talking about entire company stories. When we stopped talking about just tech companies and started talking about more companies broadly. When we stopped doing 2-hour episodes and started doing 3 and then 4-hour episodes, and like.
Then we went to 6, and then we were like, that was too much. That's too
back.
much.
But can I offer? You did do 3 to 4 hour episodes on the evolution of the same company recently.
Yes. Yeah, so I guess
now
we
you're at
did
like 12-hour episodes. If you have not listened to the part 1, part 3 of Google Alphabet AI, highly recommend it. It's worth the third of your work week to get through it.
Yeah. I don't know. My lesson on that generally is just we thought our job to be done when we were starting the podcast was to analyze why an acquisition worked. Mm-hmm. And I think it was only through developing a relationship with the audience and like asking in our Slack and asking in our Zoom calls that we were having and
doing events too. I mean, our whole life pretty much. We did an event. When did GeekWire happen? Was that our first year? That was our first year. Yeah, we've been doing live events of all scales from the beginning, and that was huge. Just to be, get in a room with people who listen, who are, numbers aren't humans who tell you stuff, and hearing from them, like, that was, I think, how we started to catch on. People be like, oh yeah, the grading acquisitions, like that's cool, but like I really love the story. I really love the history. And that's how we were like, oh, maybe we should dig deeper on that. And like,
It took us 6 to 7 years to understand that the actual job to be done was to tell a story and then understand why the company actually worked. And I should have figured that out earlier, but we didn't.
Well, and it sounds like you did the classic product market fit seeking exercises of like talk to users, build what they want, rinse and repeat. I'm curious, how you evolved your own skills doing this. Did you both come out of the womb just so charming, great storytellers?
Ben did.
Is this a skill you had to develop? You're like, yeah, I did. I came out Riz from the start, but what skills do you feel like you had to learn as this company evolved over time?
a lot. Well, first, Ben can talk about what we learned. We both had a huge advantage of, you never could have connected the dots looking back, but we both were various flavors of theater kids. And Ben in particularly, both on stage and production too. You did both in high school. And most people do that and they're like, oh, that was, a fun thing I did when I was a kid, and it never.
Well, I thought that was true for us too.
Yeah, and that was true for us for a period, 10, 15-year period, and then it actually became our livelihoods.
Yeah, it's the great irony of I went and got a computer science degree and then went and worked at Microsoft and then went and worked at a venture capital firm and thought all this was long gone, but it was me doing 12 plays and musicals and working the light and sound board, and actually what I do now looks a lot like that.
I know. I just think that theater kids, public speaking, everybody's like, oh, AI is going to put my kids out of work. They're never going to have a job. And I'm like, man, learn how to get on stage and you can have a job for sure. And so I think it's a really important skill to develop. And I'm glad. Do we have any other theater kids in the room other than the 3 on stage? Okay, see? We're bringing power.
Neither of us were, even from the first episode, were ever afraid about putting something out there. And at least for me, I don't think that would have been the case if I hadn't spent 10 years of my life making productions.
Well, and you're clearly studies of business, but this is not necessarily a tech business, a software business, probably very dissimilar from the businesses you saw in venture capital. How did you learn the business of new media, and how did you evolve your thinking about the framework, the structure of the business, the monetization over time?
Yeah, it's a better business.
Really?
It wasn't a business for 3 years.
Look, media is the original technology business. I mean, the beautiful thing about tech businesses, historically, before giant amounts of CapEx and AI, is that you write code once, and then it's useful to an infinite number of people. You get operating leverage on the code you write once. Media has a similar characteristic where you make it once and then it costs you the same amount to make no matter how many people consume the media. And so we I think we thought about media as tech people. Mm-hmm. We came into this and we were used to investing in SaaS businesses, and so in constructing our own business, I think we were obsessed with how do we make it like a tech business.
And we started covering media companies sort of inadvertently from episode 1. Our first episode was Pixar. And there's this continuum of media content of how durable it is, what is the time duration of its value, and news is the least durable.
News, one day after news is written, it is worthless.
Worthless, yeah. And then there's Disney movies that are the complete opposite, or Pixar movies that will be valuable for 100 years. And so we just kind of, both of us were our interests in the natural ethos of the show, but as it became a business, we thought oh geez, well let's do everything we can to be on the Disney side of the spectrum and not on the news side of the spectrum.
Yeah, that's something I can definitely tell from how you approach the creation of your content, how it's distributed, how it's talked about. I think many in this audience, go back to episodes that were released very early because there are these durable lessons from them. And I'm curious how you all think about crafting something that's so durable in a moment where I think in new media, we're seeing a lot, especially in tech, of daily, quick bites, even AI generated. I think there's a wide range of content in the tech and business ecosystem. I'm curious, how you think about crafting the product. What are your principles that differentiate you, that you hold very dear, and you don't compromise on?
So I think most people, in most cases, do want short form. I'm not gonna pretend actually what people want is these 4-hour audio only deep dives, and this TikTok thing is just noise. That's the bigger market. And yet, I think when something like that blows up, the entire landscape sort of flees to it. Do you remember pivot to video? When BuzzFeed and all these companies, the whole media industry 8 years ago was we have to pivot to video, and then everyone went way too far in that direction. The short form, it sort of creates this sucking sound away from quality and away from depth when the whole industry flees toward that. And I think that created this giant opportunity to do more long form, to do more deep stuff for people who craved that. And then it was just, okay, how do you tailor the content? Okay, it happens to be a lot of executives who want stuff like that. Well, how do you serve executives? Well, they're probably not going to watch a 4-hour video, but they probably are going to be flying and commuting and doing endurance athletics. Audio-only podcasts about how to build great businesses are a pretty great way to reach that audience.
It's pretty funny. I mean, you were telling me even tonight that one of the best, at least in terms of valuable listeners to us, growth, customer listener acquisition moments is private plane trips. Somebody on a plane, you listen to a podcast. The people who are on private planes, those are the people who want to listen to the podcast.
They say riches and niches, right? This is I'm targeting executives.
Obviously, that is not
flying
the majority
on
of our
private
audience,
planes with at least 3 hours on their flight. That's your ICP right there. And on this theme, you really are, I can see from the outside, doubling down on quality versus quantity, depth versus frequency, and even believe next year going to 8 episodes. Is that the rumor?
Next year's gonna be our fewest episodes.
I know. I was gonna ask when you're just gonna go straight to one.
Don't tempt
David. Give us 40 hours, one company.
The beautiful thing about our partnership is there's this wonderful, creative tension that propels everything forward. Which is, if just I made the podcast, I would never release an episode. An episode would come out once every 5 years. And I think if just you made the podcast, we would do 50 episodes. Maybe not.
But there would be no
TikTok.
history. No one will do the.
And so we meet in the middle.
Yes.
Well, what I wanted to ask is, take us in behind the closed door. How did that decision get made? How do you two make decisions like that?
Well, so this year, we've constantly moved the number of episodes down. In the early years, we used to do 20 or 30. And 2 years ago, we did 12. I think was that the first year we did 12? So we've done 12 2 years in a row. The first year we did it, which was 2 years ago, we were and that was really the first year of Modern Acquired, where we're making audiobooks every month. We're pretty gassed at the end of the year, but we had just done Chase Center. And that was
our lives changed.
Was anybody there? Couple folks, yeah.
Thanks for coming.
The line was long.
Yeah. And so we made a conscious decision this year, even though 12 episodes of the current format of Acquired is incredibly taxing on our lives, we were we don't know what...
we were kind of fear-driven on it.
We were fear-driven,
To be honest, we were I never thought we could reach these heights. How do we stay relevant? How do we make sure that we don't lose this opportunity that we have to have all this connection with people? We got to still make the monthly episode, even though we're kind of burned out, because what if it goes away? And I think now the reason we're dropping down to 8 is like we feel confident enough that it's not going to go away, that people are still going to be there, even if we're only every 6 weeks, not every 4. But
the part of what gives us confidence, and I think what we've you were asking earlier about like what do we do, what do we hold sacred, what do we not compromise on. Not that there aren't other shows who do this too, there are, but we. For whatever set of reasons, slowly and then very consciously said, we're not going to be defined by our format. And when most people think of podcasts, they think of a weekly show, usually an interview show. And even from the beginning, we broke enough of those rules, and then we found that like the more we broke the rules, the better everything worked. And so what our rules have become are, we want to make the best piece of media that has ever been made about the company that we are covering. Period. Not the best podcast, not the best interview if we're interviewing the CEO or founder. Like the single best thing of all books, all podcasts.
You're right. The fact that we are a podcast is like an implementation detail at this point. We have more in common with like a Michael Lewis book than we do with other podcasts.
At least that's what we aspire to.
Yes.
And yeah, so that's really our guiding light is like, are we, and that's what we ask ourselves, if we're going to cover a company, can we, and then as we're in the process of making and recording the episode, are we making the single best thing that has ever been made about it?
Well, and you're doing it just incredibly fast. You know, you think about that ambition of I want to create the singular defining piece of content around something very important that has touched thousands, millions of people's lives, and we're going to do it 12 times a year. And we're going to do it while also, I think, scaling what I'm going to call the acquired cinematic universe of we're going to show up at Chase Center and we're going to have our own merch. And, you know, I'm curious about your unique advantage in being able to drive velocity with such high ambition. And I think a lot of us on the
first
tech
person
side,
who's ever called us velocity, so thank you.
Look, the CPO, the CTO in me is happy with the throughput on the roadmap. Like, that's really impressive. And so I'm curious how you think about the speed at which you have to execute, even though you're doing these like very ambitious pieces of work.
Could I walk back something? I don't think we necessarily create the best definitive
I'll
work
let the man
every time
market.
we do it.
No, but I think that's the goal.
But it's more accessible a lot of the time than the canonical work. Like there's often an 800-page tome that not enough people
Depends how you
read.
define, yes, best, but yeah.
And I think we try to find that middle ground of let's take, a lot of people have read Shoe Dogs, that's kind of a bad example, but maybe let's take the Man Who Solved the Market. Our RenTech episode, I would say, is within spitting distance to the excellence of that book, The Man Who Solved the Market. I don't think it's as good.
That was a multi-year process to write that book.
Right,
Yeah.
it's not as good. We needed that book to exist to make our episode.
Yep.
But 1 million plus people will listen to the episode and far fewer will read the book. So I think we make this trade-off of like, I don't think it's the canonical thing in many cases, but it's the most accessible, near canonical thing. And it turns out that's actually a good market.
And what do you think do you think you have a multi-decade expiration date on this content? Do you think about it, we want it to be relevant for the next 5 years, 10 years? What's your ambition there?
Yes, certainly that's the aspiration. A lot of that depends on episode selection. So actually
This is why we haven't done OpenAI.
Yeah, something that might not be obvious from the outside that we think about one of the but the most critical parts of our job is episode selection. And so like to that question of which episodes have we done that I think will be equally valuable in 10 years? Hermes, for sure. Equally valuable.
Another fan
And Hermes
favorite.
will change so little that you won't really know that like
Still won't let you buy a purse. That's what I
Yes.
know.
like Google Part 1 will be very relevant in 5 years, but you can tell it's a little dated. Google Part 3 definitely will feel dated. Still relevant, but dated in 5 years.
Novo Nordisk, a lot less relevant.
Yeah. before it turned out that Lily actually had the superior product for the next generation, not Novo. Even
So
though
we're not because we came from the investing world and we have a lot of investors who listen to us. We don't get lumped in, but like there's parts of what we do that are sort of like being a hedge fund, being stock pickers. It's not quite that, but there's that element to it of like when we're choosing our episodes, it's almost like somebody built an ETF of an acquired ETF, and it's got good returns. But that's not the primary thing, but that's not something we're thinking about when we're choosing episodes.
Well, since we're on the Google Alphabet episodes that came out recently, I did want to ask you a little bit about the content of those episodes relevant to what everybody here is thinking about on a daily basis. Otherwise, we kick you out of the Bay Area, which is AI. And I know you did an episode on Google, the AI company, but I really want to know what you think the lessons learned from the early stages of Google. You just spent a lot of time on this company. What are the lessons from the early moments that you think are most relevant to this very exciting transformational moment in the technology market?
It's the exact resonance with today. The stew that early Google emerged out of is just like today, just like today.
Except it's way more expensive now to create. I mean, it's so cheap to create Google.
Yeah, but Google, early Google was built during the web bubble, the internet bubble. Whether I don't know whether it's a bubble or not, but like that same environment of there's so many companies being started. There are 16 other search engines.
That's actually probably a big one. First mover advantage turned out to be worthless in search, which is not something I actually don't know if that will be true in AI or not, but it certainly was true in search. That Google wasn't the first, but they were the last search engine, and I think that's the punchline on the company.
Well, I think the other thing that I reflect on looking at a Google and a story, and you all have been talking a lot about 100-year companies and what it looks to create those, but I personally, and I'm actually curious how you think about your business, I'm like, I want my company to go to the grave with me. I'm so excited about the one-person, $1 billion business that's being created now. I think the cost of business creation, the barriers to entrepreneurship are falling. You two have chosen to design and build a very compelling business, but it's a very different shape of a business than the ones maybe that you're studying, or at least it is today. We'll see in a couple. We'll see when you're doing 4 episodes a year where we have to plug in.
I don't think we're gonna have 100 people.
And so I'm curious. One, how does it feel to be building a business like that, where you two are very close partners? It's not a huge, multi-thousand employee, global company. How does that feel for you as students of very, very large-scaled successful businesses, as investors? How do you reflect on your own personal
choices?
Deeply
ironic is how it feels, yeah.
Yeah, I think that, it feels really good.
Yeah.
We
Feels good.
We have the luxury of getting to build the exact thing that we want to do. I mean, we were having lunch with a famous investor who told us that most people who build very successful businesses build businesses that imprison them.
I mean, tattoo this on my forehead. I think this is like a very important lesson people that live in this geographic area need to learn. So please tell us more.
And it's not that. Look, we all do stuff and make stuff that reduces our optionality. Even if you love doing what you do, you can't wake up tomorrow and do anything you want. You have made promises and commitments, so you have to do things. But I think the dream is to build something such that every day you are actually waking up and doing the thing that you wish you were doing anyway. It's almost like aligning your past promises as much as you can with your current desires. And so it's like, how good a job can you do of thinking today about the position that you want to put your future self in. I'm thinking of the Morgan Housel has this great quote on this, that debt is a form of selling your future. And if you think compute your hourly rate, and then you think in the far future, if I have this much debt, then like, wow, I've actually sold a whole bunch of my future time to someone else. I sort of think about acquired in that context of like, how many checks am I writing today that my future self will want to cash and won't want to cash? And I think when we think about like what we're willing to commit to as a business, like doing 8 episodes, like the partnerships that we engage in, like most of the ones that we choose not to do, and some of the ones we choose to do, it's like what like emotional
what are
and
we
time promise
excited to cash?
checks am I
You're
writing
excited
today
to
about
pay.
the future?
I think the other thing though that is, Ben, you make the point all the time about like, be careful drawing too many lessons from our episodes and from us because there's a lot of luck, there's a lot of other factors. We got so lucky in that our industry, the podcast industry and like what we do has zero capital intensity. I don't know of like any other industries that have literally zero capital intensity on any dimension. Specifically, obviously, it doesn't cost anything to make a podcast, but it also doesn't cost any. There's no customer acquisition cost in podcasting, the way that there is in a lot of media. There is no reliable way to spend money to grow a podcast, and so we operate in this industry where more or less any capital investments that we would make would be stupid. And so thus we didn't raise money. And thus we have control and freedom.
Yeah, I mean, I say this a lot to people. I say, if capital's not your problem, don't raise it. And, capital isn't your problem, your time, your investment, your momentum, your durability. I think the quality of your product is really what differentiates you. It's a very pure form of bringing a product to market, which is exciting. Okay, we're gonna do questions. I wanna hit you all with a few quick ones. And you evolved my thinking on the first one, which leads to the second one. So my friend here at Sentry maybe has heard me say this, but I believe this to be true of CEOs, and I maybe even believe this to be true of our 2 previous interviewees, and don't judge me when you guess which bucket I think people fall in. So I think many leaders have jock energy or they have nerd energy. Now I'm gonna say theater kid energy as well. I'm gonna add that to the mix. Jock energy or nerd energy? Which one do you bring?
Nerd energy.
Yeah, nerd energy, nerdy theater kid energy. But
But it's about playing
I
the
think we
middle.
bring well-rounded energy.
Yeah, like when I'm like hanging out with friends who are all engineers, I'm like, oh, I'm the PM.
And that's, I don't think
one
he's
of the great
complimenting
things
himself.
about one of the great things about Acquired, and one of the great joys of it for my life, and I think your life too, is we are equally comfortable doing an episode on the NFL as we are on Taylor Swift, as we are on Google, as we are on Costco, as we are on Hermes, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so we got some, I'm not judging who was nerd energy or jock energy on the stage earlier. I thought it'd be a
tell
good
us.
question to
No,
ask.
no.
Okay, got another one related. Ivy League or state schools?
I've only ever attended public education.
Oh, hey. I wanted an excuse to both bemoan the performance of the Texas Longhorns this football season and give you a little bump.
Buckeyes.
I know, they're doing so well. But I love to see, as a state school person surrounded by a bunch of Stanford people out in the audience, I always like to ask, okay, my final, yeah, go ahead.
No comment.
Okay, again, we're not going to draw any lessons learned. You had to say, sort of in one word, what is a common theme of iconic companies that you feel like you see over and over when you study the greats? What's the word that comes to mind?
N of one.
I would second that. The other, very, very few common traits, but the one that strikes us so often is continuity of executive team.
Yep. Great. Okay, let's go to the audience for some questions. All right, we got you.
You guys are doing an incredible job. I'm so curious to understand how the infrastructure of your business is guys geeking out to what you're doing now and changing the number of episodes, having your own team for resources, or is it just like hours and hours that it takes to get together?
David and I just had our strategic offsite, which meant that we tacked an extra day onto a trip that we had and hung out at a nice hotel. this is exactly the question of what should we do going forward. Currently, the team is David and I, and we have a contract editor for which we are his only client. He's amazing, and that's the infrastructure. And that's probably wrong, but that is.
Yeah, but I think
Lots of
that's
AI.
the software and the internet is a miracle that makes what we do possible. You know, if we wanted to do anything even remotely similar to this 30 to 50 years ago, we would need to go to a radio station and convince them to hire us, and then we would have an addressable market of that city.
And an onerous contract with the
Yeah.
radio station.
Yeah, and we'd have to accept their advertising and
But I'll just say Claude has dramatically changed
Claude
my
is-
research process.
we probably would have had to hire somebody a year or two ago, but for AI and Claude specifically.
Okay, so everybody on the stage team is them and Claude. Okay, I saw another question back here.
Right. So I know you, so I've listened to the podcast for a long period of time. But hilariously, I listened for a while, and then I got pulled back into it by my wife. It was like, have you heard of Acquired? And tens of thousands of dollars of Fermentas and everything there.
Sorry.
I heard of listening to Google episodes and that. Suffice to say, I'm curious how you think about growing the demographic, because that was shockingly. It was like, how do you even know about these guys? And anyway, I'll let you guys take it.
LVMH was accidental and massively expanded the demographic, and then a whole bunch of stuff after that was intentional to expand the demographic. Like the reason we did Novo Nordisk was because a giant percentage of the GDP and thus the jobs that people hold are in the medical industry, and we were like, geez,
Seems like that's TAM expanding. Yeah.
there's a giant chunk of America that we could address if we do that. And then cars and consumer packaged goods, and next week's going to be Trader Joe's. These are intentional choices, both to study businesses that we find interesting and that we can learn new mental models from, but also rotating around different types of businesses.
Yeah, my wife's been in Trader Joe's before I did. She's gonna be like, we're listening to this.
We're pumped for Trader Joe's. It's going to be a really good episode.
Well, I want Taylor Swift's second podcast appearance to
we
be
do
a follow.
too.
I know. So, Taylor, you heard it
Can
here.
you send her a letter for us?
I will send an ignored tweet on this. Yes, and I do. For any of the ladies in the room, the Epic one, amazing female founder. So, an incredible nationwide changing business. So again,
Judy's the
healthcare.
most successful female founder in the world. in history.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay.
How's your thinking evolved on the dichotomy of structural forces versus the great man or great woman theory of these businesses? I feel like the more you know about a lot of Silicon Valley stories, it is so idiosyncratic and personality driven and whatever, but there's also obviously timing really matters and you can't necessarily make the thing happen. You can be general magic or whatever. So I don't know, I'm curious how your thinking has evolved on kind of the relative impact of those two forces.
My answer on this is we study these outlierish successful businesses, and when you're that far over on the distribution, it requires the full sum of both. A full charged battery of Steve Jobsian character and a full charged battery of the world was extremely ready for the personal computer. And I think that's basically the case in all of these.
It's funny. It's such a good, timely question because this is the story of Trader Joe's. I won't spoil the whole episode, but there are a few massive demographic
No,
changes
we got 3 hours. Let's do it live.
that Joe was acutely aware of, and he was a genius, both.
Okay, let's do one last question. Perfect.
Great.
Is there an episode that you know you would never do?
We will in time.
We will for sure do OpenAI. It's just not now.
For example, the other one is if you have a carve out that you would share here that you wouldn't share on the podcast.
Oh, okay. Wow. All right, first one. There are the whole set of companies that we will never cover that are in any way sort of attached to politics. our goal is that people who listen to us have no idea what our politics are. This is the great Michael Jordan quote that I think we said on the Nike episode.
And it's not like we're hiding something extreme.
No. yeah, we're not extreme, but good point.
This can be the answer to part 2.
yeah. But maybe there was a little bit back in the day of, we were limited in our TAM by people like, oh, those are like, I lived in Seattle all the time, like 2 Seattle liberals, like, and like now, like, we want everybody to love Acquired. So yeah, anything political, and you could imagine there are lots of companies that are political for various reasons. Carve-outs.
I'm trying to think that I wouldn't say. A lot of times I don't say stuff on the podcast because I think it's boring. Like a lot of my like parenting tips, I leave out. Yeah.
I would probably say this on the podcast, but I bought a piece of Rimowa luggage recently, and it's I love it. Like it's my one. I feel a little bit like I'm cheating on Hermes, but with an LVMH product. But the Hermes suitcase was too much. So I went with the Rimowa one, and it's a stupid purchase, like all luxury purchases, but I genuinely love it and it brings me joy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have one last thing I have been told to make a big deal about, which is your podcast has a birthday cake over in the corner that's about to get lit up. So we got a happy 10th birthday. We're walking very slow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sentry.
Thank you, Sentry.
No, but you blow
Thank
one
you.
out.
Lots of candles.
Look at this.
Congratulations. Thank you. It's amazing. All right. Well, I think now we get to have cake. There's more food out, and I'm sure you guys will be mulling around for a little bit for all the fans.
For sure.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah,
thank you
thank
to Sentry.
you.
But
This
this
was
is
very
such a
fun.
great room chatting with all of you. Like, it's such a it's one of the great joys of what doing Acquired is. Like I said, we've been doing stuff like this from the first year of the show, and it's getting to meet and spend time with all of you who listen. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Who got the truth? Is it you? Is it you? Is it you? Who got the truth now? Is it you? Is it